And there you have it, Germany's fate sealed within literally less than 24 hours of the election result being announced in Germany. What am I talking about? Well, Friedrich Merz, the new Chancellor, the head of CDU, who's just been elected or will be elected as Chancellor of Germany, was giving his first press conference, and he was asked about immigration and closing the borders, which was a hot topic of discussion during the German election. And he came out in absolutely no uncertain terms and said, nobody is talking about closing the borders. We won't be closing the borders, not even a topic of discussion. This is the same Friedrich Merz that was previously an employee of BlackRock, that is, I believe, a trustee of the World Economic Forum, that has worked for big business and corporate business who just love a bit of cheap labour for many, many, many years now, and who is an arch globalist and internationalist. And you heard it from the horse's mouth. We will not be closing the borders, basically won't be doing anything about immigration. So that's Germany fucked then. Well done.
Look at the collapse of Germany right now, seeing it all over the place. Businesses closing their doors. And I'm speaking to Germans who are saying they don't know what's going to happen with this energy crisis. These businesses cannot afford to operate. Guess what? Tens of thousands of farmers descending on Berlin. The United States umbrella of protection isn't working anymore. So these countries are looking inward and elsewhere, and that's where China and Russia are stepping in.
Germany is running out of money and now has to choose between international security and social welfare. But where did the money go? I'm glad you asked. 60 billion for climate protection, 100 billion for the German army, which, according to the defense minister, is still incapable of defending the country, and another 200 billion in aid for German businesses. All these figures are loans which need to be paid back with interest, and the tax revenue forecast for 2024 is simply not enough to cover the needs of the government. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess this is what winning looks like.
I want to be really clear about what it means when Elon Musk says that he endorses the far-right party, the AfD, in Germany. Let's dive into their Manifesto for Germany, shall we? They oppose LGBTQ+ rights and gender inequality initiatives, promoting traditional family structures. They emphasize preserving a specific German identity, opposing multiculturalism entirely. The AfD calls for Germany to exit the EU and abandon the euro, favoring a national currency. They promote very strict border controls and have stated that Islam does not belong to Germany. And the AfD opposes renewable energy initiatives, dismissing climate change concerns and advocating for the increased use of fossil fuels. AfD leaders have made unbelievable remarks about Germany's history. One AfD leader referred to Berlin's Holocaust Memorial as a monument of shame and called for a 180-degree turn in Germany's remembrance culture. Another former leader described the Nazi era as just bird shit on our 1,000 years of successful German history. Germany's Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution has classified AfD as a suspected extremist organization for their anti-democratic tendencies and their discriminatory rhetoric. And as recent as May 2024, they upheld this classification, citing evidence that the party actively pursues goals against democracy. One AfD leader was fined 13,000 euros in 2024 for using a banned Nazi slogan during a speech. The party has also been noted for their use of derogatory terms towards refugees and Muslims by party members. And finally, the AfD's youth organization has been classified officially as a right-wing extremist group by state-level intelligence authorities, citing evidence of anti-constitutional activities. So the billionaire, who is currently being considered for leading the proposed Department of Government Efficiency under Donald Trump's potential administration, endorses all of this.
Europe has come to America's aid many times in the form of NATO or as a coalition of the willing. Obviously, NATO's Article 5 was first ever enacted after 9/11 on behalf of the United States of America. It's the first and only time it's ever been enacted, number one. Number two, even in the first Gulf War, it was Europeans and a coalition of international willing that supported President George W. Bush in his aim to remove Saddam Hussein from Kuwait in 1990, the first Gulf War. And again in 2003, an incredibly, as we now know, ill-conceived war against Iraq, which nonetheless got allies, American allies, to join in a coalition of the willing. So they have done their part. And even as John says, that they should, and of course it was the Obama administration who called on a higher NATO contribution in 2014. It can't be done overnight. You can't throw everything in the air and say, hey, dudes, we're out of here. You're going to be responsible overnight. That's not reform. That is a really dangerous almost a realignment of your alliances. Who are your allies? And why are you treating them like this? And I think that's the fundamental question I have. And why are you being softer, perceptibly anyway, on your...
So Donald Trump is trying to take a victory lap in Germany after their recent election, despite the fact that he is conveniently forgetting him, Elon Musk, and JD Vance all wanted the alternate for Germany far-right party to win. They lost badly and won't be part of the incoming German government, but take a look at how Donald Trump is trying to cope right now. He says, looks like the Conservative Party in Germany has won the very big and highly anticipated election. Much like the USA, the people of Germany got tired of the no common sense agenda, blah, blah, blah. That's a real funny way to pivot, even though everyone in his orbit, like Elon Musk, JD Vance, Charlie Kirk, all desperately wanted the AfD party to win, and like I said, they lost. This just goes to show that Elon Musk can't buy all elections. Way to go, Germany. The best part is the incoming chancellor of Germany is no fan of Donald Trump. He has repeatedly criticized Trump's extreme policies and is a pro-Ukraine chancellor. So, way to go, Germany. This is embarrassing for Donald Trump and Elon Musk, but what's new?
I believe by now you know that we have the United Nations and we have the NATO. These were organizations that were formed to combat World War II and to ensure that we don't have another world war like the ones we saw in World War I, which happened between 1914 to 1918, and World War II, which happened between 1939 to 1945, you know. So NATO and UN were formed to ensure we don't have another world war, you understand? So the main aim of these organizations was to ensure world peace. That is the primary function of them. So we had these countries which came together and formed the permanent members, or if you like, you can call them the veto members. These are the most powerful members of the United Nations. And we only have 5 countries. Among them, we have United States of America. And now, USA, being a veto member or being one of the most powerful members of the UN, is also thinking of getting out of the organization and being independent. And now, remember we had the NATO. NATO means North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So NATO is basically an organization that was there to ensure the European countries are safely guarded. You understand? It's NATO which controls the European affairs, and also we have USA being a member of the same NATO. You understand? USA did not take part in any world war. They were just secondary. They were auxiliaries in the Second World War and the First World War. We can't say that they took part in it. They took part only when they bombarded Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But they were auxiliary members, not so much active, you know. So USA is thinking of leaving UN, and now we have another country in Europe which is also thinking of leaving NATO, the very organization that was formed to ensure safety of European countries and safety of world peace. These people are also permanent members of the UN. Germany is a permanent member of the UN. Germany is also a member of the NATO. USA is also a member of the NATO. So USA is thinking of leaving UN, and Germany is thinking of leaving NATO. See, as they leave, as they disintegrate, these organizations are becoming weaker. Because, of course, you know, when you have 5 sticks and you try to break them, it may become hard. But if you pull one outside each, if you pull one stick outside the bunch, it becomes easier to break. And that is how we are going to see the disintegration of NATO into a very powerful organization, into a very powerless organization in the future, if this continues. Now, there is a discussion that was made around this topic, and I believe Germany has a good reason to allow themselves get out of this organization, because I think they feel like they are being oppressed and some other countries having the favor in spite of them being an active member, you know. They feel being oppressed by the United States, and the US feels it is being compressed and it is being limited by UN. I want us to dive into this video. Listen, I shall get back.
And this map shows an unmistakable divide. West Germany is a sea of black, dominated by the CDU or the Christian Democratic Union. East Germany is painted blue, swept by the AfD or the Alternative for Germany party. Now, this is a clear political fault line. West Germany voted the Conservatives, East Germany turned to the far right. If you looked at this map with no context, you'd think the Berlin Wall never fell. And that tells you everything about this election. Germany is divided. It shows in the results. Now let's take a look at the big winners and losers. The biggest winner, of course, is the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union. They secured 28.5% of the total vote. Their goal was 30%. They fell short, but they came out on top. Their priority now is forming the government, for which they will need an ally, and that ally will most likely be the Social Democrats. That's the outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz's party. So the next government in Germany will be a two-party coalition. By German standards, that's remarkably stable.
Together with the mandates of the Social Democrats, which account for 120 members of parliament, we are naturally capable of forming a government with 328 seats out of 630, a black-red coalition, and that is exactly what we want.
So who will lead this government? The leader of the Christian Democrats, Friedrich Merz. He is set to become the next chancellor. Born in 1955, Merz is not just a politician, he is a trained lawyer and a licensed pilot. His political career took off in 1989. That's when he was elected to the European Parliament. Soon after that, he entered the Bundestag, which is the German parliament. His rise through the CDU ranks was swift, but his luck ran out in the early 2000s. That's when Angela Merkel sidelined him. She was in the same party, the CDU, and she went on to rule Germany for a good 16 years. So Merz walked away from politics. He joined the private sector. He made millions and never held a government post. But he also did not let go of his dream to be chancellor. And now, 2 decades later, his dream is finally coming true. Which brings us to the other big winner, the AfD, the Alternative for Germany party. They won 20.8% of the vote, and this is a remarkable rise. This party was formed in 2013. It's only 12 years old. And in 12 years, they've become Germany's second biggest political force. Also, they've doubled their numbers since 2021. That's when Germany's last elections were held, 2021. The AfD got 10.4% of the votes back then, and now they're at 20.85%. The AfD is classified as a far-right party. Some of its members are called extremists. They've gotten into trouble for using Nazi-era symbols. Yet, in former communist East Germany, AfD is the biggest party. And it's because of many reasons. AfD talks tough on immigration. It raises the problem of inflation. All this has earned them a loyal voter base, and it uses TikTok to reach the youth. Plus, the AfD has a powerful backer in Elon Musk. All these factors have boosted its position, but it won't be able to stake claim in the government. Leading this party, the AfD, is Alice Weidel. She is from West Germany. She is an openly gay politician. Her partner is a Sri Lankan-born German. The couple has 2 children. And this makes her an unusual choice to run AfD. Yet many believe Weidel is the party's balancing act. She makes AfD look more moderate. And she's quite pleased with the results. In fact, she already has her eyes set on the next election.
I personally am very happy. We as party leaders are very happy. We have been able to form a very good platform here, a strategic platform that has the best prerequisites to overtake the CDU within the next few years for the next election. In other words, to become the strongest force and to take the government mandate for the next federal elections with us.
Now let's talk about the biggest losers. Topping the list is Olaf Scholz and his Social Democratic Party. It was their worst election result in over a century. Scholz says he will not serve in the next government. He is stepping back for the party.
The election result was better last time, and I was responsible for that. This time, the election result is bad, and I would like to take this opportunity to say that I am also responsible for this election result.
So what's next for Germany's future? Merz has some big challenges ahead. The first, of course, is immigration. Merz says that his first job is to close Germany's borders. No undocumented immigrants will be allowed, not only in Germany. He wants tougher rules for all of the European Union. He wants immigration reform for the entire bloc. That's one issue that he has to deal with. Then we have the economy. Germany is the world's third biggest economy and Europe's biggest. But for the second year in a row, it is in recession. Energy prices are at a record high. There are massive labor shortages. So Merz wants to rebuild Germany by improving infrastructure and slashing the red tape. Which brings us to his last big problem, Donald Trump. America has long been Germany's bedrock ally, but that equation has changed with Trump's outreach to Russia. His statements about Europe's security and his berating of Germany. This has angered the Germans. So the next chancellor has vowed independence from the US. He has promised to build European security, and he believes that NATO could be dead soon.
Spätestens.
With Donald Trump's comments on Zelensky and Ukraine, it has been clear what is happening here. The trench in the Atlantic is getting deeper, and the question of whether or not we, the Federal Republic of Germany, can still celebrate 70 years of NATO with the Americans in a carefree manner has not been answered.
So where does Germany go from here? Friedrich Merz takes the helm at a time of deep division, a fractured electorate, a stagnant economy, and a shifting geopolitical landscape. His government will have to act fast to cement Germany's place in a changing world order.
Now, after carefully watching this, I think it's right if we say that sometimes if you feel that where you are not being served your best interest, sometimes you are in a group of people and you feel that you always have to tone yourself down in order to be accommodated. I kindly believe that you are in the wrong place, Many people really don't realize that until it's too late. Unfortunately, some of us die in the process of trying to reinvent ourselves, Here is something I have to tell. NATO and UN are organizations that were formed to protect humanity in general. But we've seen throughout the years that these organizations that were formed to protect us are the very organizations that are hurting us, are harming us. And we have so many examples where NATO has abused its powers, has gone beyond its jurisdiction, and it has intervened where it's not supposed to be. A good example is what happened in 2011 when Gaddafi was killed, Gaddafi was killed, or rather, it was aided. The murder of Gaddafi was aided by NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The NATO were using those satellites and all that to scan and to tell the rebels where Muammar Gaddafi was. NATO amplified the rebels, they gave them the weapons, And so they helped topple a government that was safe. Now, after NATO touched Libya, Libya has never been like it was, It has never been like it was. Germany, we've known over the years, it is the country which birthed that dictator, Adolf Hitler. Yes, but we cannot let past things control our future if we corrected them. Now, I'm looking back right now, and I am thinking that NATO might not be serving the interest of its members. It might be serving the interest of some few oligarchs in that very organization. Because it's an organization of European countries. An African country cannot join NATO. I've not seen. Maybe in the future, but I don't think as well. So a few countries or a few individuals that have seen there's a resource in another country and they want it, they misuse the powers of the NATO and they go. The same way with the UN. We've heard that UN, rumors has gone around saying that UN is not really bringing peace. What UN does is it creates the way for looting. It makes the way clean for looters to come and loot countries. A good example is what was happening in DRC. You know, UN is pretending to be bringing a peace, but the peace is never brought. We always have fights after fights after fights, conquering after conquering after conquering. What then is the purpose of these countries, which we call organizations of bringing peace? I don't think they are purposeful right now. I think that these are organizations that, sorry about the noise, it's this truck. So NATO, UN, as long as they don't have human interest, humans in general, not white people, I think it should just be disbanded and thrown away. Germany has looked upon itself and it has decided we don't want this. And you've just listened carefully and you've heard for yourself. I want us to further this discussion on the comment section. Share your thoughts. I'm waiting to hear from you.